Hello everybody, Gage here from Sharp. Excited to have you with me. Today's video is all about knife scams or unethical marketing schemes surrounding kitchen knives that you will find online. Today's video is going to be all about identifying these scams, giving you some tips and tricks on how to do that and how to pick out a great knife and get the most value for your money. So let's first talk about what are some of the most common knife schemes, marketing tactics that you'll find out there that you should generally avoid if you come across. The first one we'll talk about are gimmicky types of knives. So those with holes in them, those with scalloped edges, those made from ceramic materials, or those with like the ridges on one side of the blade. The scallops and the ridges are purported to allow food to release from the blade more easily, but we find in our testing that it makes no difference whatsoever. Knives with holes in them, if it really made a big difference to the performance of the knife, everyone would be putting holes in their knives. It's not a difficult thing to do.
What you diddly doing, neighbor?
Putting speed holes in my car. Makes it go faster.
So there's a reason why most knives don't have holes in them, is because it doesn't add anything to the performance of the knife, and in fact probably makes it more dangerous to use than those made in the more traditional way. So anytime you come across like a gimmicky sort of style of knife like that, good idea to avoid those knives. Next thing we'll talk about is obscure steel types or proprietary steel types that you can't find any information on. This is another red flag. If they're trying to obscure the material that they're making their knives from, chances are it's not a great material. If you're using great material, you're going to tell people what it is because it's going to translate into a really nice knife. So if you're not embarrassed about the material you're using, you're gonna talk about it. Next, we've got huge discounts or sales that seem to be going on for all of time. So if you come across a website with a 75% off sale and you navigate away and come back a week, 2 weeks later, a month later, and everything's still 75% off, that's a good indication that you're not getting the most bang for your buck, and they're trying to trick you into thinking that you're getting a phenomenal deal. Chances are they built this 75% discount into their pricing, and the knife is only worth what they're selling it to you as 75% off. In fact, probably not even worth the discounted price. You should look out for 100% off sales on those particular websites. Now, this isn't true for all online retailers, but generally speaking, if the online retailer also has a physical location, that's a good sign. So maybe a yellow flag is when the online retailer does not have a physical location. Again, this really depends on where you're shopping. Some online retailers are great. They're very responsive with their customer service. If you have an issue, they'll remedy it for you. But it's always nice to know that if you have an issue and no one answers you online, you know where you can find them. So yellow flag are retailers that are only online and don't have a physical location. A red flag would be that the knives that you're shopping for are only available in that particular store, so you're not finding the brand anywhere else on any other retailer. Generally, us Japanese knife retailers, we sort of stick to a large variety of different knife makers, but you'll find them in other people's shops. Like Sharp will have this knife, but Tosho will have it, and other shops will have it in stock as well. So if you're only finding that specific brand on that one website, a bit of a red flag. Finally, we have misleading or unrealistic marketing claims. And now this could include, but is not limited to, a knife being purported to stay sharp for a very specific amount of time, or a knife that never goes dull. Every knife ever made needs to be sharpened at some point in its life. So to say that a knife never needs to be sharpened is misleading, unethical, and just totally false in my opinion. This is a big one, not using the product in the marketing video that you are watching. So we're not gonna point any fingers here, but we've come across videos where the knife being advertised is not the one being used in the marketing video. That is a huge red flag. If you have a great product, you're gonna use it in the marketing video because you want people to see how amazing it is. If you're using other knives to sell your knife, pretty big red flag there. Yeah, this one definitely strikes close to home for us because we often get our logo stolen, used on other websites, and our actual videos that we spend a lot of time making used in other people's marketing videos. So big red flag there. Another big one you'll come across is Japanese style, or knives made from Japanese steel. This is only one part of the equation of what makes a knife great. You may be using Japanese steel, but you may not know how to work with it properly. You may purport that your techniques are Japanese style, but none of that really matters. If a knife is made in Japan, they will tell you that it is made in Japan, and even if it is made in Japan doesn't necessarily mean it's a fantastic knife, but to say that it is Japanese style or made from Japanese steel without being made in Japan is another big red flag. Banned for sharpness. This makes no sense whatsoever. Knives are not allowed into a country based on their sharpness level. They are either allowed or disallowed into a country based on their intended use. So kitchen knives can be shipped anywhere in the world. Some hunting knives, like military style knives, are not allowed to be imported or exported to certain countries, but they will never be banned because they are too sharp. Red flag. And finally, again, we could make this list even longer, I'm sure, but the last one we'll talk about is Damascus, or the amount of layers of Damascus in a knife. This again does not add anything to the performance of the knife. It sure makes the knife look cool, but the amount of layers of Damascus does not matter. It's fun to talk about, and you can definitely see a difference in the pattern dependent on how many layers of Damascus there is, but it's not going to make your knife sharper. So take that with a grain of salt. You can find knives made from like 11 layers of Damascus steel that look beautiful, that perform at a really high level. You can find knives made from hundreds of layers of Damascus that may look beautiful but don't cut very well. So take that with a grain of salt as well. So this video, of course, would not be complete without telling you some tips and tricks on how to avoid these knife scams. And really, step number one, you're in the middle of right now. You're familiarizing yourself with some of the more common schemes and scams, and you're doing a little bit of research to find out what the best knife is going to be for you. So step one, complete. Way to go. Step two is going to be working with a trusted retailer or brand, one that has a long track record of providing great service and selling great products to their customers. You can familiarize yourself with good brands and retailers by visiting forums like Kitchen Knife Forums or the Chef Knife subreddit. Both of these places are great communities that you can visit, and the people on there will guide you towards great retailers in your area or ones that have the specific knives you're looking for. So that leads perfectly into our next point, which is take online reviews and those found on the website that you're shopping on with a grain of salt. Not everyone is going to publish all of their bad reviews. You may not know this, but it's quite easy to hold back bad reviews on your website. So finding a retailer or a brand that is happy to publish their 1, 2, or 3-star reviews actually, in my mind, adds a lot of credibility. Someone may have been disappointed with the knife, but it may be because they were uneducated about the product, and if you do a little more research on the product, even though it has maybe a 1-star review on it, you may find that the reason it got a 1-star review would not apply to you. So always take those online reviews with a grain of salt. Always best to visit an impartial place to find reviews like the ones we talked about already, Kitchen Knife Forums or the subreddit on Reddit to find trusted reviews. So the last point we'll make here is to manage your expectations. Generally speaking, and much like any other product out there, the more you spend on a knife, generally the better the knife's going to be. It's a good idea to sort of try to sift through the offers and find ones that really get down to what the knife is going to perform like. So if it comes with a really flashy finish on it, really exotic materials, or it comes in really flashy packaging with all these stickers and this extra stuff that you really don't need, that's a good indication that they're trying to bolster their offering with cheap stuff that really doesn't add anything to the performance of the knife. So again, manage your expectations. The more you spend, generally, the better a knife you're going to get. Now, I also think this video would be incomplete without telling you how to find a good knife. So some of the points we've previously made apply here, making sure you're shopping for a knife on a good website with good customer service, or shopping with a brand that has a track record of providing really good service and really good products. But the best way to know if you're going to get a good knife is to keep in mind the three pillars of what makes a good knife, those being the steel type that it's made from, the edge geometry, and the heat treat. If you find a knife with all three of these things working together, you're gonna get a beautiful, beautiful knife. So one that has really good edge geometry, one that's heat treated properly, and one that's made from a steel that is of good quality, and one that you can do some research on. You should also make sure that you have a good understanding of what you want the knife to do. So a really expensive knife may be expensive because it's ground very, very thin behind the edge. It's made from really hard steel, which will generally hold its edge longer. But if you're really rough on your things, that knife may actually not be appropriate for you. Some ironclad knives out there will kind of get up in price as well. And those are very difficult to maintain. And if you're looking for your first Japanese knife, that might not be the way to go for you. So having a good understanding of what you're looking for in a knife is important to finding one that's going to suit those needs. That's why we always recommend, if you have the opportunity, to go into a store and have someone guide you through their particular knives. They're gonna have a really intimate understanding of all of the different knives they offer, what they're good for, what they're bad for, and they're hopefully going to ask you a lot of questions about what you plan to use the knife for, and that will help them to determine what knives they carry that will be good for you. So shopping with a good, going into the store and handling a bunch of knives as well is really important. So there you have it, guys. That's how to avoid knife scams. We talked about some common ones that you'll come across, how to avoid them, and what makes a good knife, and how to shop for a good knife. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have some tips and tricks that you want to leave down in the comment section below, we'd love to hear from you. If not, and you still enjoyed this video, make sure to slice up that like button, subscribe to our channel for more knife-related content. Until the next one, stay sharp.